This is webinar series number 1. My second webinar series will be on May 4th, and we will learn all about moving to Costa Rica. So I am here today as your host. I will be facilitating this first webinar. My name is Claudia de Silva. I am a local realtor here in Texas, as you can see, and I help clients, sellers and buyers move to Portugal and Costa Rica. So I'm also originally from Portugal, and I just love to advise clients international where to buy, where to sell, where to invest, or when they are selling in their country of origin, I should say. Okay, so Portugal. Why? Portugal has been nominated #1 country to retire in 2020. It is affordable and it is safe. And Pedro, our realtor here today, is going to tell us more about it. But I just wanted to mention, we all have heard about Paris, France, Florence, Barcelona, all these other places. But now we start listening to more and more about Portugal. It used to be a hidden gem. It's not a hidden gem anymore. Everyone starts hearing about Portuguese food, Portuguese wine. As a matter of fact, yesterday I went to Trader Joe's. You guys in the US are familiar with that. I found pastéis nata, the Portuguese custard tarts, and some Portuguese wine. So Portugal is going places. It has been going places for a few centuries, actually. And that means that we have long-lasting traditions that run deep. We have a lot of culture. We definitely love our sports. And yes, as I mentioned, we have excellent food. And Pedro is going to tell a little bit more about Portugal. So let's get real. Why Portugal? First of all, the reason why you are here, you probably have heard foreign investment in property ownership for non-European residents is easier than in many other countries. We have great healthcare options, and that's really important to North Americans. The climate is great. We have a great quality of life. I think being Portuguese means, having quality of life pretty much. Affordable housing compared to many other countries, especially within Europe. We do have a coastline rich in different beaches. The cost of living is low, and I think Pedro can address that a little bit for us. We do always have fresh and local foods. That is very important for the people that are moving, retiring. Friendly and welcoming is definitely how I characterize the Portuguese people. We do have a lot of culture. We do have a high rate of expats for the reasons I just mentioned. And then there's the wine and the soccer that everyone knows as well. Now I have this slide here. If I had to describe Portugal, it would be a rugged coastline with beaches, castles, and olive groves. International Living has nominated Portugal above Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Colombia, #1 place to retire. Not only retirement, investing, second homes, Airbnbs. And then we have a picture here that I was going to take away, but I actually thought it was so controversial. And let me know in the chat with you if you agree. From between France, Spain, Italy, and Croatia, maybe Croatia, but Portugal it does not have the highest cost of living. I have been in France. I actually will contact International Living and ask them, guys, where did you base yourself with that? Because it is not in no way the highest cost of living from these countries. France definitely is ahead of the game. So the reason that you join us today, how to move to Portugal through real estate, visas, taxes, and opportunities. Today, you are going to take home what the Portugal Golden Visa Program is, the benefits, eligibility, investment types, requirements, application process, and timeline. Although that may be something we need to have a conversation with our experts one-on-one. Statistics, 2022 program changes will address some of that, direct access to the experts right here. So I will start with the first guest. I will introduce them first, and then I will invite Guilherme to join us in a moment. So my first guest will be Guilherme Figueiredo. Thank you, Pedro Pires, for introducing us. Actually, Guilherme is a tax and wealth lawyer, as I mentioned before. He is very international. He speaks different languages. He has over 18 years of experience in Portugal, the UK, and Switzerland. He assists successful entrepreneurs, families, business owners family offices and wealth managers throughout Europe and Latin America with their personal and business affairs. And my second guest is Pedro Pires. As I mentioned, he is my top realtor in Lisbon. I love working with him, and he's our local realtor. He's with Century 21, and not only is an awesome realtor, he has a degree in marketing and a master's in management. Pedro does speak several languages, and he's our focal point for all things real estate in the area. So without further ado, I'm going to invite my first guest, Guilherme Figueiredo, to join us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so he can share his information.
Thank you, Claudia. Hello, everyone. So I'll be sharing my screen, as Claudia said. Here it is. I hope you can see it. So, like Claudia said, I'm a tax lawyer and a private client lawyer. I'm originally from Portugal. I lived and worked in the UK and in Switzerland, and I've been helping clients with their move to Portugal, both from a legal point of view and from a taxation point of view as well. So this is a very broad subject, and it's very difficult to go over all the details of the different visas. So what I did, I I prepared a few slides. Let's see if it works. Here it is. So my idea would be to give you an overview of what would be the advantages of moving to and becoming resident in Portugal, and a couple of the most popular options of how to do it. So what would be the main reasons, or why would you want to move to Portugal, apart from what Claudia mentioned? So there's temporary and permanent residence. So a lot of people don't know the difference between the two, but when you become resident in Portugal, you are granted temporary residence for 5 years, and then at the end of 5 years, you can apply for to become a permanent resident. So when you move, you become temporary resident in Portugal. When you do, and you are granted temporary residence, you are obviously free to travel in and around the Schengen area, with some restrictions at the moment due to COVID. But generally speaking, you can freely travel within the EU and the European and the Schengen area. Another positive thing about becoming resident in Portugal, and that is one reason why many people are looking at residence visas in Portugal, is the possibility to apply for citizenship after 5 years. So the law changed like 1 or 2 years ago. It used to be 6 years. Now it's 5 years. So I'm sure you've probably made some research and you've heard about the D7 visa and the Golden Visa, and both of those grant you or give you the possibility after 5 years to apply for citizenship. And then finally, there's a very good reason for those who want to become resident in Portugal, those who actually want to move and that will become tax resident in Portugal, which is a regime that it's kind of well known, but very badly explained usually, because people think that it's the same thing as a golden visa, and there's a big confusion about this. So I'll be talking a little bit about the non-habitual resident regime, which is a special tax regime available to everyone who becomes resident in Portugal. So temporary residence. So there's a lot of visas. You might know there are a lot of visas that you can apply to in order to become resident in Portugal. I would say the two most popular options are the Golden Visa and the D7 visa. Obviously, these visas are only available for non-European citizen. So if you have, for example, dual citizenship, and one of those is from Europe, you are not allowed to get this type of visa. You don't need one. You can actually move to Portugal and get your residence card as a European citizen instead of actually going through a visa. So if you are non-European, if you are non-European citizen, you need to obtain a visa in order to become resident in Portugal, in order to move to Portugal. And as I said, the two most popular options are the Golden Visa and D7. I'm going to be speaking a little bit about both in a moment. So in both cases, you will be granted, or you will be able to apply for permanent residence after 5 years. So you are granted the visa, assuming that you are granted the visa, either one. After 5 years, you can apply for permanent residence. And also after 5 years, you may apply for citizenship. So there's a couple more requirements that you would need to meet in order to apply for citizenship, but that's perfectly doable. And that's one of the main advantages of doing one of these visas. And again, obviously, if you are granted one of the visas, you can freely travel in the European Union and the Schengen area. So those are also, this possibility of traveling in the Schengen area is also one of the reasons why people are looking for a visa. In this case, a residence visa in Portugal. So the golden visa. So this is probably the most well-known or more advertised visa, residence visa, when it comes to Portugal. And it has some, I would say, positive things and some less positive things. The most positive thing is that you don't actually need to live in Portugal. I mean, you can benefit from the visa. You can be granted the visa without being resident in Portugal. So this is specifically for people who either don't want to or can't move at the moment, but they would like to start their 5-year residence period now without having to move. And in that case, they would go, they could look at the golden visa. The not so positive thing about the golden visa when compared to other visas is obviously the fact that you need to make an investment in order to be allowed or to be granted the visa. And I haven't listed all the investment routes that are available for the golden visa. I've only mentioned the ones that are more popular. And those are, as you may know, the most popular one is the purchase of real estate in the amount of at least 100,000 euro. And I've put the equivalent in US dollars. So this is the most common one, and this is the one that people usually know about. The other option is to purchase real estate in for at least 350,000 euro, but that needs to be either real estate that was built more than 30 years ago, 30, so more than 30 years ago, or real estate located in an urban regeneration area. So the purpose of this route is for people to buy, let's call it, old properties and to renovate those properties. So you will see that in both cases, there are smaller limits. So for example, 400,000 euro in this one and 280,000 euro in this one. And that is applicable if you buy real estate in a low density area. So in an area of the country, geographic area of the country where there are very few people living. And obviously the government is trying to attract investors to areas that are very with low population. So if you buy in one of those areas, the minimum investment requirement will be lower than if you buy, for example, in Lisbon. That is about to change, and I will talk about that in the next slide. That will be changing at the end of the year. So as from the 1st of January 2022, the rules will change, and you will no longer be allowed to buy real estate in the near the coast. So, for example, you won't be able to buy real estate in Lisbon if you want to apply for the Golden Visa. So just going through the other two options, the other two investment routes for the Golden Visa. The other one is the third one is the €1 million bank deposit. There's a lot of different interpretations about this, about what you can do with your money once you open the bank account and you make the 1 million deposit. And the simple answer is, it depends on the bank, because some banks will not allow you to invest your money in shares or stocks or bonds, and some of the banks will. So that really depends on the bank. And the fourth investment route is to invest in a private equity or venture capital fund, and that is a €350,000 minimum investment. This, apart from the real estate, and we'll see that in the next slide, apart from the real estate, the other two routes will be the minimum required investment required will change as from next year. So that's something we'll see in the next slide. But I would say that these four are the, let's say, most popular investment routes when it comes to the Golden Visa. Like I said, the minimum stay requirement for the Golden Visa is 7 days, which is something that obviously it's very useful for someone who wants to do the Golden Visa, but for some reason they can't spend, a lot of time in Portugal. So this is this is the most positive thing about the Golden Visa. And obviously the Golden Visa allows family reunification. What this means is that, and some people don't know it, but when you apply for the Golden Visa, and it also applied to all the other visas, when you apply for the Golden Visa, you can only have one main applicant. So there can only be one person applying for the visa. If you have other family members that you would like to bring with you, or that you would like to for them to be able to benefit from the same rights as you as a Golden Visa holder, then you need to apply for family reunification. So that is kind of a separate visa. So it's a separate thing that you need to do. And if granted, those family members will be entitled to the same rights as you as the Golden Visa holder. So talking about the changes as from the 1st of January 2022. So when it comes to real estate, so there has been, and I'm sure that if you did some kind of research about the Golden Visa and about real estate, you've seen that for the past, let's say, 12 to 24 months, there's been a lot of news about the government in Portugal trying to somehow limit the possibility for investors to buy real estate for the Golden Visa. So a few months ago, there was this law that was passed where they actually implemented it. Well, it's from the 1st of January 2022, and so there is still some margin for this to change. But as it currently stands, what will happen as from the 1st of January 2022 is that, like I said, the minimum amounts for buying real estate will not change. So the ones that we saw in the previous slide, 350,000 and 500,000, will not be changed. what will change is the fact that you will not be allowed to buy properties in coastal areas for the golden visa. So if you don't really care where you invest in real estate for the golden visa, then you're fine. If you want to buy a house close to the beach or in Lisbon or in the Algarve, for example, then you need to move and you need to submit your golden visa application. So you need to buy your property and submit a golden visa application before December 31st, 2021. So that is the deadline. For bank deposits, so for the third investment route, bank deposits will increase from 1 million to 1.5 million euro. And the investment in private equity and venture capital funds will be increased from 350K to 500,000 euro. So this is causing people to really think, some people that were like thinking whether they should go for the golden visa or not, or whether they should go for the real estate route or not. This is the moment where you need to think about it seriously, and you need to really decide if you want to do it, especially if you want to buy real estate in a coastal area, because it does take some time to buy the right property. And I'm sure Pedro will maybe address that in a bit more detail. But if you want to buy the right property, it may take a few weeks or a couple of months. So please remember that you need to submit your golden visa application by December 31st. So you still have some time, but you need to act, basically. The other option, the other popular option is the D7. Now, I think the D7 is becoming, while the golden visa was more popular for the past few years, I think the D7 is, I would say, picking up some interest now. And that is because there is no minimum investment required. And that is a big advantage for many people, especially for people that really want to move. I mean, people who want to live in Portugal now, this is probably the one that they would be doing, because there is no investment required. And although the requirements to benefit from the visa are not, super difficult to meet, they do need to be looked at very closely, because there's a lot of confusion, and there's a lot of probably like dozens of websites with information, but very often with conflicting information. So there are a few things that you need in order to be able to apply for the D7. And one of them is, or two of them are, you need to have sufficient money, enough money to live in Portugal. So the authorities want to see evidence that you have the means to support your lifestyle in Portugal. And you need to have enough passive income to fund your lifestyle during your residence in Portugal. And there's a lot of questions and a lot of discussion about what kind of income is required for the D7. So as the law says, and as the name says as well, it's about passive income. So if you have a salary, if you are a contractor and you are like an independent contractor, that is not passive income. Okay, so passive income, we're talking about, for example, rental income, we're talking about dividends, we're talking about interest, we're talking about income from financial assets, we're talking about royalties, for example. But if you are employed and you have, if you are an employee and you have your salary, that is not passive income. Okay. So basically what the authorities want is to know that you have, when you make the application, that you have enough money to, to be able to live in Portugal, and that you will have enough money, at least during the 5 first years, to live in Portugal. Okay. So the not so good thing about the D7, and that's why the D7 is more appropriate for people that actually can or want to move to Portugal, is the fact that you need to stay on an annual basis. You need to stay 6 consecutive months or 8 non-consecutive months in Portugal. So there are some exceptions that you could argue. So if, for example, one of the years you have like a specific situation that, kind of forces you to spend a lot of time away from Portugal, that could be accepted. But generally speaking, you need to stay 6 consecutive months or 8 non-consecutive months per year in Portugal. Okay. So this is, I would say, the two big differences between the Golden Visa and the D7 is obviously the investment. So in one case, you need to make a minimum investment. In the other case, you don't have to do a minimum investment. On the other hand, in one case, you may spend as low as 7 days per year in Portugal, whereas for the D7, you need to spend 6 or 8 months in Portugal. So these are the two big differences between the two visas. And just like for the Golden Visa, the D7 allows for family reunification as well. So there can only be one main applicant for the D7. And then if you want to add other family members, if you want them to join you in Portugal, you will need to apply for family reunification. So one of the, or maybe the biggest advantage about both visas, about the Golden Visa and the D7, is the opportunity to apply for citizenship at the end of year 5. So in both cases, and this is one question that I get a lot, people asking, but if under the Golden Visa, if I don't stay for more than 1 week per year in Portugal, will I still meet the requirement for citizenship? Will I still meet the requirement of 5 years of residence for the Golden Visa, for the citizenship? And the answer is yes. That's why the government thought about the Golden Visa. So in both cases, D7 and Golden Visa, after 5 years of being granted the visa, you will be entitled to apply for citizenship. Now, another thing that there is some confusion about is in some countries, you can just buy citizenship. For example, in Malta, you can just go to Malta and buy your Maltese passport. In Portugal, you can't do that. So citizenship is not guaranteed, meaning the fact that you go through the D7 or the Golden Visa does not guarantee you citizenship at the end of year 5. But you will be meeting the, let's say, the biggest or the most difficult requirement to be met, which is the 5 years residence. So another requirement to be met is the knowledge of Portuguese language, which is not, you don't need to be fluent in Portuguese in order to meet this requirement. You obviously need to maybe take some lessons, some Portuguese language lessons, and that would also be, good if you want to live in Portugal. But it's, it's doable. It's totally doable. So I would say that this is probably the cherry on top of the cake for many people that look at the Golden Visa and the D7, is to, at the end of year 5, to apply for citizenship. Now, from a tax point of view, like I said, there's a lot of confusion about the non-habitual residence regime, because some people think that, it's available even for golden visa holders who never live in Portugal, that it's the same thing as the golden visa. So if you apply for one, you are granted the other, or that the golden visa has a tax side as well. So those are two complete different things. One thing is the legal side, and is the authorization that you need to become resident in Portugal to be able to entry the country and to become resident, and that is the visa, either the golden visa, D7, etc. And the other thing is a special tax regime of which you might benefit from once you become resident in Portugal. So you obviously need to go through the visa if you are non-European, because anyone can benefit from the non-habitual residence regime. Even Portuguese people who live abroad and decide to go back to their homeland, they could benefit from this regime if they meet the requirements, which are very few. So this regime is available to anyone who becomes resident in Portugal. And what this regime says is that for a 10-year period, you might fall into 4 different situations. I mean, what they will do is that for a 10-year period, you will declare your income as you would in any other country, all types of income worldwide, because when you become tax resident in Portugal, you need to declare your worldwide income. But what happens is that, as I explained in the slide, several things could happen depending on the type of income that you will be earning during that 10-year window. Some types of income will be fully exempt in Portugal, and that is, for example, the case of dividends, insofar as those dividends are not received from an offshore jurisdiction. So let's say if you live in Portugal, if you benefit from the non-habitual residence regime and you receive dividends from a UK company or a French company, those dividends will be exempt in Portugal. Okay. The other situation you could fall into is for people who are retired, the pension income will be subject to personal income tax, to a reduced personal income tax rate of 10%. The third situation is that some types of income, mainly employment and self-employment income, in some cases might be exempt, might be subject to a reduced rate of personal income tax of 20. And some other types of income will be fully taxed. That's the bad news. And that is the case, for example, of capital gains. So capital gains will never be exempt. They will always be fully taxed. And this is fairly difficult to explain and to understand in a slide. But the general idea that I wanted to leave, if you can take just one idea from this slide about the non-habitual residence regime, is that you need to think about the non-habitual residence regime before you move. Because, for example, you will want to, if you think that you'll be earning capital gains once you become tax resident in Portugal, maybe you will want to do something about it before you become tax resident in Portugal. So what I'm saying is that there is some pre-immigration planning that can be done in order to optimize the tax situation once you become tax resident in Portugal and you benefit from this regime. And so this is, there might be some questions about this later on. It's a not so simple regime, but it's something that if you plan for it, it can be really, really useful. And then finally, Claudia asked me for a little freebie. So we are, if you think that you might need some assistance, or if you think that we might be helpful, we would be more than happy to grant everyone who registered for the webinar to grant you a discount on our fees. So feel free to reach out to Claudia, and she will direct you to me, to us, and we'll be happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guilherme. That was amazing. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I know some of you have just joined us. I wanted to let you know that we are going to be sending a recording, and that Guilherme did an amazing job with the limited time that we have. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. We're probably going to exceed the 1 hour, but I really, truly want to ask you to leave all your comments, questions on the Q&A, and at the end, after Pedro talks about his information, we're going to address all of them. So without further ado, Pedro, please join us. The floor is yours.
So, hello everyone. Thanks for your participation in our webinar. We intend to be helpful for you, for those who intend to come to live to Portugal. Thanks to Claudia, first time for the initiative and for the invitation, and for Guilherme for sharing his knowledge and to help you, everyone. So I live in Portugal almost since I was born, so I can always tell good things about Portugal. This is an outstanding country for you to live, because you can enjoy good weather, good food, and people are always welcoming foreigners, and we have lots of people coming to live in Portugal from all over the world for these reasons, and in particular the real estate issue. That's what brings me to this webinar. So I'll try to resume some questions. Naturally, it's not easy because I don't know you, and I don't know what you could be looking for in the near future. So all the questions that you have, please put, and we can talk, and I can answer here or then privately after the webinar, because each one of you would have his own preferences and questions, and I will try to address to all of you. So just to no, I was off. Now I'm on. So I was saying, let me just introduce you to some economic indicators, just in order that you have some picture of Portugal. So we are around 10 million inhabitants, and there's you can notice a migrant balance. So every year we are having people, particularly foreigners, coming to live to Portugal because of the good conditions that you find here. Obviously, the COVID has an impact in GDP, in inflation rate, in unemployment, and as well in real estate, but it was all over the world. The currency, euro dollar, is 1.19. I've converted all the figures, the values, and as well the areas, because you use the square meters and then you use the square foot meters. The house price index, as you can see, we see this is the subprime crisis. So there was a huge impact in real estate. And then starting on the third quarter of 2015, and starting on on this point, you see a huge growth in prices in Portugal, in prices and in houses sold. This is the particular impact of COVID, mainly between the first and the third quarter of last year. Starting on the third quarter of last year, prices and sales increased again. I will show three particular regions that I found interesting for you to get a better understanding. So last year, in particular, 2020, we had an increase in house price index of around 8%. The price is increased more in existing housing than in new housing. We had 171,800 homes sold last year, less naturally than 2019 because of the COVID, but the prices increased. This is graphics from our statistics institute. So I didn't have the chance to convert the prices, but you know it's 1.19. This is the median of house prices in Lisbon. This is the most expensive area in Portugal, and you can see that starting on the beginning of 2016 till the third quarter of last year, you see a huge increase of prices, almost a double. Same in Porto, on the north of the country, and in Algarve, south region, it is the region that people look specifically for holidays. Sorry. Regarding buyers, last year we registered 29 nationalities of buyers, mainly Portuguese people, around 40%. And you see an increasing number of Brazilians, French, UK, and USA is increasing. Now it's in the 12th place and increasing. You have here the prices, the average price in these three areas in the Lisbon, because I work in Lisbon area, so I'm more focused and I can help you specifically in this area. So we see the average price in Cascais in dollars, around 1.6 million, in Oeiras around 1 million, and in Lisbon around 900. And the desired lifestyles, what people look when they buy homes in Portugal. First, a place near the beach, then riverside, then a cosmopolitan, countryside, historic center, contemporary, vineyard, and golf. So we have lots of offers in Portugal where you can buy a home and consider the lifestyle that you want to live. Because Portugal, despite it's a quite small country compared to US, for example, we have very different regions with a very complete offer in Portugal. So I leave you 6 good reasons to choose Portugal. First, the geography. We are an entrance to Europe. We're a strategic point in Europe. The weather. So we have around 300 days of sunshine every year. So this brings good mood. So if you're looking for sunshine, you have it here. History. So I don't know if you know this, but Portugal is has the oldest border in Europe. It dates from the 12th century. So we have plenty of historic places, museums, fairy tale regions, like Sintra, that is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Gastronomy. Here you can enjoy the best food in every restaurant or in the tavern. Quality of life, and Forbes validates it, listed Portugal as one of the best places for residency and to get a passport. And services. Despite you have a quality of life, you have as well a good healthcare system, good schools, since your kids enter the preschool until the university. We have universities ranked in the best worldwide. So don't be afraid, it's not just for holidays. You can have a good life here and with good quality. We have several tourism awards, as you can check and Google, for city breaks, for destination, for beach, for conservation. So you have all of the offer. And considering the Lisbon area, so Lisbon is the capital, and the areas around from South Setúbal, that is 40 kilometers away of Lisbon, and Cascais around 25, we have this range of prices. So in Lisbon, you can find a price of around $527 per square feet. In Cascais, 472, in Oeiras 376, and Setúbal 230. That's really cheaper. Obviously, this is average prices. You can find houses cheaper and obviously more expensive than this, depending on what you're looking for. I brought you some houses, some proposals of houses to buy, but I want first to address some issues that could be interesting for you, because you will ask naturally what types of costs you will have in Portugal. Unfortunately, I did not prepare that slide because I didn't remember it could be interesting, but when you buy a property here in Portugal, and depending on the price, you will have to pay taxes. That is tax EMT regarding property. You have to pay a tax stamp, and then you will have the costs of the utilities of living there, and probably other costs depending on the area. But for every specific case, and depending on your investment, I would prefer to address personally, and to because it is not easy to, for example, to calculate the tax that you pay depending on the value, because it's not a fixed value. It depends. It's very low. If you buy a house of 100,000 euros, it's if you buy a house of 1 million, you will pay around 100,000 euros of tax. So let's address it personally. I think it would be better. So I'll leave you with 3 suggestions in the Lisbon area that could be interesting to you, and that match the golden visa issue. So if you want to appeal to golden visa, you have here 3 suggestions that could fit in that issue. So this is a new condominium. It will only be ready in 2 years, with 20 houses, with 4 to 5 beds, with this lot size, smaller to the bigger lot size. So a condominium with security, with pool, with outside space, with solar panels, with batteries, with electric charging of vehicles, and 24-hour security. Well located, near Lisbon, near the airport if you have to travel often, in the middle of the nature, and with a lot of quality. Now, crossing the river to south in the area of Setúbal, where you are near the beaches, where if you love to play golf, you have a golf course nearby. This is a good house. You have to be renovated a little bit, but you have a nice area outside with a pool, with a barbecue area, with a nice lounge with fireplace. As you can see, the price per square feet is cheaper on the south area of Lisbon, crossing the river. And this house is for $831,000. And a third suggestion that is in Cascais region. It is a very well-known area, close to the coast as well. And I'll leave you with an apartment in a condo with a pool. The price is similar to the house in the south part, but you can see the difference because Cascais is its most expensive area. And this is a 3-bedroom house with a fully equipped kitchen, and with a living room, with recover, with storage, with parking places, and a condominium pool. So this is just 3 suggestions for you to have an idea of what you can find in Portugal, what is the range of prices. Naturally, as I told before, you can have based on the lifestyle that you want. I will advise you the best region, the best price, and I will do. I will help you in all process. So this is just 3 suggestions, and that's my idea of what you can find in Portugal. So Claudia, maybe if you don't have any question, we can open for question and answers, because I think we have some.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Pedro. So as we have mentioned, Guilherme and Pedro did an amazing job for the allotted time that we have to give you a sort of introduction. So this is the first step. Obviously that every one of you attending today is going to have a particular situation. You are going to have a different situation than everybody else. So our invitation to you is, if you still have other questions we are not going to be addressing on the Q&A in a second, or if you would like to know something else, please just reach out to me. You do have my contact. You have registered for the webinar. We are also going to send you the recording. You can reply to that email and let us know when it's a good time to talk, so we can sit down and help you, because that's why we are here. We want to help you throughout the process, understanding where, how, and how much, right? Because that's a really, really important question. So Pedro is definitely a specialist in the Lisbon area. Portugal has different areas, and different areas offer different lifestyles. And I do have real estate agents throughout the whole of Portugal. So we are going to be able, together with Pedro, to find you the right agent. Guilherme can definitely answer any questions related to visas, either Golden, D7, and taxation on one-on-one, and he's giving you guys, because you registered, at 15% off. So that's a really, really, really good offer. So here we go. We have about 23 questions. We're going to go through some of them. I believe some of them already were answered, in my opinion, but we're going to go from the beginning. So Tony, Tony has asked, what type of cash flow returns can one expect to see in Portugal? Pedro, I believe we are inclined to give an answer of it depends. What do you think, Pedro? What type of cash flow returns can one expect to see in Portugal?
Talking about rentability, it depends on what kind of property you invest. I'm more focused on residential. In residential, if you buy a home, you can expect a yield around 5%.
Perfect. Tony, if you have more questions about that, you would like to go dive deeper into the subject, a one-on-one is definitely the preferred method. Andrew, what you say non-Europe passports, do you mean Europe? What about the UK? Guilherme, that's for you.
Well, unfortunately, the UK has left the EU. So the UK is considered a non-European country for this type of situation.
Thank you. Daniel, thank you for your question. Daniel says, I have heard about a new 10% flat tax on foreign retirement income. Is this subject to the no double taxation provisions of the US/Portugal tax treaty?
Yeah, so the double tax treaty between Portugal and the US would apply. So that means that if you pay US tax on your retirement income, that would be taken into account in Portugal. So you wouldn't pay double, so to speak.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mr. Tony, again, thank you for your question. How do we find out more info about VIC investor funds, VIC?
Yeah, it might be VC, so venture capital funds eventually. So there's a few, you can obviously Google it, or you can talk to some of the banks because some of the banks will be distributing these funds. So they will have information on the funds, or you can eventually come to me.
Absolutely. Call Guilherme. So, Luis, thank you for your question. If I come to Portugal on a D7 visa and my partner gets a resident permit through the D7, can he work in Portugal for a local employer?
Yes. So the D7 allows you to work in Portugal. So like I said, when you do the family reunification and you have family members that are kind of added to your visa, they are entitled to the same rights as you. So under the D7, you are allowed to work in Portugal. Yes.
Fantastic. Now, this I believe is probably for Pedro. John has two questions, and basically is where can we get a list of the properties that need to be renovated, and then the areas of low density as well. So basically, I think John wants to know in the map where are the areas and the price ranges and everything.
I can send that later because I don't have it right away, but it's quite easy to find it.
Okay, John, we'll make sure you will get, actually, I will try to include that map when we send you an email that will have a recording, and any other questions we couldn't answer live, we're going to send you some more materials, including a copy of the slides, if that helps. Andrew, thank you for your question. Is there a distance from the coast that the new rule applies for? Example, 5 kilometers.
No, there's no such thing. I mean, there's a map, for example, for the 2022 changes for the golden visa. When I say that you won't be able to buy properties in coastal areas as from the 1st of January. Well, you can buy it, but not for the golden visa. There's a map that you can that we will probably be sending you with the recording and the slides. There's a map of the areas, and there's also a list of the different municipalities where you will still be allowed to buy a property that meets the requirements for the golden visa. So that will be sent after the webinar, if I understood.
Absolutely, we'll make sure to send that. So we have the same question by multiple registrants. Is pension/retirement considered passive income? Right, Guilherme?
I think I was muted. I think you jumped one of the questions, but
I did.
Right, okay. The D7 is actually called the passive income visa or the retirement visa. So it has been specifically designed for people who are retired or people who have passive income. So the answer is kind of yes, because it gets to the end result, which is if you are retired, you can apply for the D7.
Absolutely. Now, John had a very good question. Although he directed at Pedro, I want to help Pedro answer that question. And this is why you registered for this webinar. So Pedro is trying to purchase a property in Portugal for the past 6 months, and he's having some difficulties not only understanding the process and as well maybe connecting with the right realtor. That's why you are here, so we can connect you with the expert. Pedro is that expert. And as a matter of fact, we have had other webinars where we went through the whole purchasing process. And the reason why we didn't address it on this webinar is because it's time consuming. The reason is that the process is just simply different in every country. Pedro is our specialist for the Lisbon, Setúbal, or Cascais area, and he will be able to sit with you on one-on-one and go through the home buying process, and he will have access to all the properties that match your requirement. Pedro, can you confirm if that's correct?
Answering Diane's answer, right?
Okay.
Are you listening?
Yes.
Okay. We're answering Diane's question, right?
Yes, exactly. John Diane. Yes.
Okay. The question is, I've met Diane previously. She's already in Portugal, and I invited her to the webinar. So we had that issue before. I know it's not easy for someone that lives in US to come to Portugal because the market is a little bit different. So in Portugal, for example, we don't have an MLS. So every real estate agency, every brand like Remax or Era or Century 21 has its own site and its own houses. We can share between agents, and but not it's not the same thing as the US. So uh, I guess that Diane as the is feeling a little bit it's not understanding how the market goes and expects a more quick answer from realtors, and sometimes it doesn't happen because we don't have a common platform to see the properties. So I can, for example, if I work with a buyer, I can visit every house of every agency, but I have to find that property in the site of that agency. It's not easy to find every house in the same platform. So it might take a little bit of time to get in touch with a colleague and to try to schedule a visit because we don't have a shared platform.
Exactly, but that's why it's even more, I guess it's very important for you to have the one realtor, in this case, work with Pedro, one designated realtor that can do all of the legwork for you. That's why he's considered an expert, right? He has the network, he has the contacts. They don't have an MLS over there, so he can reach out to his colleagues, the networks that he has, and get information on those properties. So definitely get with Pedro one-on-one. We'll definitely be able to introduce you there. Now, Tony has another question for us. What do real estate buyers need to be aware of when purchasing real estate in Portugal versus the USA? For example, what are costs associated with property taxes, utilities, other costs you need to hold a property?
I introduced the slide in my presentation, the one that is not complete just because of this question of Tony. I think it's better to address it personally because it depends on the kind of investment he wants to do. So I will obviously explain him every cost that he will have when buying a property here, because it depends on the place and depends on the investment. It depends on many questions. So I will let him know I will try to add that slide to the presentation, and when you send it to our attendees, they will have that information. The standard cost for water, for gas, for electricity, and tax costs.
Absolutely, but I can leave you with a tip here. It's much cheaper
Okay.
than in many other places. Rhonda is asking a question. D7, 15,000 euros in the bank plus a passive income.
I mean, it's always difficult to answer that. I would say the straightforward answer would be, it depends if it's for an individual or a couple or a family, because that changes a lot. For an individual, definitely yes. For a couple, probably yes. I don't know how much passive income they have or what is the situation, what kind of lifestyle they will have, where they will be living, etc. But in terms of the numbers, in principle, yes. Now, there's one thing that people must know is that the authorities want to know that you can access that money. So when you say that you have 15,000 euro in a bank account, it should be a bank account in Portugal. So you are required to open a bank account in Portugal and have those funds deposited in that bank account. So please take that into account.
Opening a bank account in Portugal is a fairly easy process. And I know when you have a one-on-one with Pedro, he has people on the ground, bank institutions that he can connect you with and give you a little bit more information on that. And I know that because we've been doing this for a while. Are capital gains made in the US fully taxed in Portugal?
Well, it's a very broad and simple question with a very complicated answer, because the straight answer would be, well, the double tax treaty in principle applies if the requirements are met, and under the non-habitual residence regime, capital gains will be fully imposed in Portugal. So in that specific case, the answer is yes. Now, it really depends if it's capital gains from from shares or from real estate or from there are so many different possibilities, but under the non-habitual residence regime, capital gains will only be fully taxed in Portugal. So obviously there is the double tax treaty, but there won't be any exemption in Portugal on that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Guilherme. Andrew is asking, what triggers being deemed tax resident in Portugal? Is it actually living there for, say, more than 180 days a year?
Sorry. I was saying, I was thanking Andrew for the question, because that one is a good one. There's two situations in which you can become tax resident in Portugal, and people generally only know about one of them, which is the 183-day rule. Just like in most countries, when you spend more than 6 months in one country, you are very likely going to be deemed resident for tax purposes in that country. There's another rule in Portugal that says that if you have an habitual abode, so if you have a property, a home in Portugal during any time in a 12-month period, that makes it very likely or gives the impression that you want to live there permanently, then in that case, you will be deemed tax resident in Portugal. So basically, if you buy a property and you spend, I would say, like 5 months in Portugal without exceeding the 180 days, there is the risk that you might be deemed tax resident in Portugal. So you need to pay attention to that. You need to think about that in advance. But just keep in mind that the 183-day rule is just one of the rules under which you can become tax resident in Portugal.
Fantastic. Thank you. Everyone, we are definitely over the webinar time. I want to be conscious of your time. I want to address a few more questions. We won't be able to go through all of them. As a matter of fact, the ones that are directly D7 visa application, I will have to connect you with Guilherme. That's why he's offering you the 15%. Definitely needs to be a one-on-one. But there is a few that I want to ask Pedro. I think they're interesting. For example, how much does a property management typically charge for an income property in Portugal, Pedro?
It depends. To give you an example, in Algarve, mainly that I have some customers buying there, the range is between 20 to 50.
Now, I've had...
For example, with 50, you have all included, even replacement of lamps, of old equipments, everything included. And with 20, you have just the check-in, check-out, and the process. If you have Airbnb, you have other kinds of taxes. It depends. It's a specific situation. Normally, when I work with buyers, first I understand what is their focus, their type of investment. Then they tell me what is their expected yield, their income, their rentability, and then we look for a property that fits their need, and then I will collect all the information in order that the buyer decides correctly.
Fantastic.
We can add Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've just finished.
Okay, so a few more questions for you, Pedro. I think they're interesting general questions. You know, the square footage measurement as living space or total structure space. I believe is total structure, correct?
No, regarding the prices that I showed in my presentation.
Space, yes.
Normally, the square foot price we consider the living area.
Exactly.
Because the other areas the price is completely different. For example, for an evaluation, the price of a balcony in apartment in the center of Lisbon, it can range between 200 to 500 euros. But this is a value that we don't consider when normally we divide the total value by the living area.
Fantastic.
Outside areas and balconies have a different price.
Pedro, HOA, homeowner association fees for a condo. Do you in Portugal usually have what we call homeowners association?
We have normally how does it work? I would say the majority of the buildings are managed by a condo association with the proper owners. But we've noticed that there are some companies that do that management, and people are starting to hire that external management. Companies that do specifically condo management. But it depends. For example, the older people are more difficult to hire that services than people, younger people, naturally.
All right, we're going to wrap up all the questions. We'd actually a question Maggie is asking. She's trying to trick me to see if I understand Portuguese. So she typed it in Portuguese. So people that are retired from the military with disability, do they pay taxes?
Well, that's, again, it's a very broad question. Depends under which situation, but generally speaking, yes. But people with a disability usually have, they don't pay 100% of the personal income tax that other people pay. They have a discount, kind of discount based on the level of disability that they have. So, but in principle, they would pay, they would need to pay on their retirement income. Yes, not fully, but they would still need to pay. Yes.
Fantastic. Gents, I wanted to thank you for being here today, for allowing us time to explain some of these very interesting questions. Everyone, thank you for attending. If there is a lot of good information that you're taking from here, we're going to send you a recording. There's still some questions that we need to answer. We'll make sure you'll get the answers. We will send you the slides, the map where you can see the different prices, things like that. And yes, the reason why we brought you these two experts is that if you have any questions regarding any type of visa, we can connect you with Guilherme. If you have any questions of any type of real estate, rental, buying, selling, you can come through me, connect you with Pedro. We can sit down with you, have a discovery session. It is free, where we can understand what are your real estate goals. And Pedro is a professional in the Lisbon area that has contacts with banking institutions, local lawyers like Guilherme, but as well any other questions you may have about management companies and what would be the best investment for you. So thank you everyone for joining us. Pedro, Guilherme, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share before we leave today?
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you all for attending. We are open to answer to all of your questions. Sorry if we couldn't get more in the questions, but it's not possible because the time is limited.
Yeah. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, everyone who registered and attended the webinar. And please, if you are thinking of submitting some more questions, please try to be as detailed as possible, because especially on the tax side, every single detail makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. This is just the beginning of a conversation. We do hope to meet every single one of you, and hopefully, right, Pedro, help you move to Portugal.
Claudia, you can share our contacts if someone wants to address us directly.
We are going to do that on the follow-up email. Yes, we are going to make sure we connect with everyone.
We'll be open to help you, everyone, and thanks a lot for your interest.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Be safe out there. I'll see you soon. If you want to know about Costa Rica, I'm back May 4th. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.